Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Roberto Monaco here with Influenceology and the Car Speaking Company. And today I have the man, the myth, the legend, my brother, Dug McGuirk. What's up, buddy?
What's going on? I am so excited. I am sharing this right now on my page too.
I love that. You're sharing this. You're sharing this everywhere because I want to make sure nobody missed this. My brother Doug, I love your bio because like this, musician producer, man. I never talked to a musician or producer, so hey, and you happen to be my brother. You know what I mean? So, entrepreneur, amazing speaker, amazing coach. He's an author. He wrote a book, Under Construction, Navigating the Detours on the Road to Recovery. And also, he's an overall powerhouse. He has an awesome podcast. And today we are talking about bringing personal development into our professional lives. So, my brother, welcome, my man.
Welcome. Well, thank you so much for I just love any excuse to hang with you is like perfect. And by the way, I do have to say that a huge part of my prowess on stage is directly from your training and tutelage. So I just want to,
I appreciate that, brother.
Acknowledge where it came from.
I appreciate that, brother. So what I love about you, my man, is that you're always innovating. You study psychology, NLP, communication, entrepreneurship, and then you did something that is really extremely difficult, my point of view. You brought all your experience, communication, intervention to help people to recover from addictions. Is that correct? Which is incredible. So can you tell a little bit about that, your background, Tony Robbins, the speaking, and how that flow into that kind of work? So
the long and short of it is, as you know, so let me back up a little bit as to the way we were developing our business working with Tony. So what we would do is we would infiltrate an area, a town, a city, and then become members of that society and start networking and meeting the leaders and so forth. And one of the things that I did to grow the business was I would either join or start a power team in the area. And for those of you who don't know, power team around the world are groups that get together once a month on purpose to celebrate personal development. And it was inspired by Tony. So a lot of it would be around Tony Robbins content. And I ran it in New York. And then when I went on the road, I would go and find them. So I was in Florida, and a good friend. Do you know Trevor Crane? You know Trevor?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Trevor, he's like, hey, I was in there. It's like, I was asking about the power team. He's like, yeah, I used to run it, and it's defunct right now. But I have a friend who I'm not 100% sure what he does, but I know he's a Tony guy because I met him in the Tony community, and I know he has an auditorium. And I know he'd let you use the room because I would also hold events. Like when someone would buy tickets, I'd say, hey, I don't want you to be overwhelmed by what you're going to experience with Tony. Let me kind of warm you up like even more. It was like a value add to the ticket sales. And so I held an event there, and the owner of the treatment center came, and he was like, oh my gosh, this is what's missing from our treatment center. Like, what are your plans? And, it's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, you're going to be on the road with Tony forever? And I was like, well, not necessarily. What are you offering? And he's like, we need this for our staff and our clients. We really want them to succeed. And I've been doing what I can to bring some personal development stuff in, but you clearly, you know what you're doing here. What would you like to do? And so obviously, having my heart with Tony and all of that, he was like, you did for me what I did for Jim Rohn, so go, you got to go and do your thing. That's what that's why we do. So I did. And what I found was drugs and alcohol. And I struggled with drugs and alcohol at a young age. That's how I got into Tony in the first place. So I applied some of the things I learned from Tony to eliminate drug and alcohol problems in my world. So I understand and understood what the clients were going through. And what we found was that drugs and alcohol are not the problem. They're the solution. They're a state management strategy, a very effective state management strategy. So we got really effective in helping people create a life worth being sober for using the personal development sort of model. But then when I start pulling back further, I realized that, well, drugs and alcohol are just as much of a strategy as internet or porn or shopping or being pissed off or, any of that. And it turns out that we get addicted to, I have a keynote called Creatures of Addict, that we just get addicted to, anything. And we see it now more than ever in today's world, like, people just getting addicted to the drama, like getting addicted to the news, getting addicted to whatever. And so when we then pivot this to talking about the professional world, the personal drives the professional. And very often, I work with executives and consult with other authors and speakers and so forth. And what stops them is their addiction to the story they're telling themselves about, like, the BS about what's going on, or they get locked into anger or frustration or fear or complacency. And it ends up really being the same thing. People are people.
I love that. I never thought about the frame of addiction. The word always for me is like, okay, alcohol, drug, overeating, right? But I never connect to being connect to the drama, especially right now that you're living. By the way, Jerry here say in LinkedIn, Jerry, hello, hermano. Say hi to Doug. What's up, brother? What's up? Jerry's a real estate agent out of in San Diego. Awesome, man. So in this, and obviously, man, you don't need to do a group intervention here, but for a lot of people, I feel they're struggling right now. The lockdown, lost jobs, 150,000 business gone, millions of people unemployed. If people are in any form of addiction right now, either overeating, or drinking too much, or addicted to the negative state, the anxiety, the depression, what would be maybe some ideas that you could offer them? Well,
okay, so I'll give you a quick story on how this sort of showed up for me in the power of this. So, and it's actually utilizing a situation that is real situation that happened with a client who went through the treatment, and he ended up getting a job at the treatment center. And he was there for like 5 years at the treatment center while we were still working there. And super awesome guy. I had done a lot of work with him while he was working there. And I taught him sort of the idea that drugs and alcohol were just a strategy, right? Just a state management tool. And he found out that his brother died. And he was like, he shares, like, I was ready to give up. I was ready to just relapse. I was like, that was it. I was going to join my brother. I could just feel my that old person start coming alive. And he goes, I remember what you said, I got like 5 seconds to make a decision about what I do. And the state I'm in when I make that decision is so important. So as I did what you told me, I did 15 jumping jacks. And then I didn't want to relapse anymore because I just needed that break. And I share that story is just when we find ourselves starting to go down that path, it's how quickly can we just do anything to radically interrupt that pattern? And I know this is just basic NLP, right? I mean, Tony does it all the time. You remember, devils come out, right? That's when Tony did that, all he was doing was interrupting that pattern. And, you jolt the body. So for you and I, practically, if someone right now is struggling and they're feeling like that weight and it's starting to get in the way of them performing, is to find something, do anything that is so like out of the ordinary for you in that moment. Whether it be, I think even T. Harv Eker, we went to the Millionaire Mind Intensive. They gave you those rubber bands, right? And you went and snapped the rubber band, right? Whatever it is, because we don't need a huge change. All we need is just a quick intervention, and it's on ourselves to go, wait a minute, step back. What do I want right now? Is this serving me? And then I would go into deeper in my program, Freedom Hack. We start the power of the questions we ask ourselves, right? Like, what is the question that I'm asking right now that is making me feel this way? And then how do I want to feel? And what questions do I need to ask in order to feel what it is I want to experience?
I love it. Let me just unpack. First of all, Jerry said, great information, Doug. Linia said, adjustments are a pattern interrupt extraordinaire. I love that. Doug's a big chiropractic advocate too.
Totally.
Now, so let's talk about, I want to, for the people who are not familiar with terminology, you use the word state management. And can you just unpack the idea for those who are not familiar with the term?
Sure. Well, let me ask a question. What would be the like if money was no object and you could have any car, gas powered car on the planet, what gas powered car would you want to get?
No, but I'm not very good a car guy in our family.
Well, let's say Ferrari. Would you like a Ferrari?
Oh, Ferrari is good. Yeah, but with two car seats, a 3-year-old, 1-year-old, my brain doesn't go there. But
Lamborghini makes an SUV.
Oh, here you go, Lamborghini SUV. My wife would like that. My wife would like that.
Lamborghini SUV. So here you go. You got a Lamborghini SUV. Now, would you need gas, right? Would you pull up to Steve's Bait and Tackle shop, who's got a consignment store on the side, an old food truck, and 82 octane gas that's been sitting for 30 years? Would you put that gas in your Lamborghini?
No.
Why not?
Because we damaged the engine, my whole car.
Okay, so agreed. I think everyone would agree they would not put that crap gas in the car because they know it would perform poorly and it could cause permanent damage.
Yep.
Acting out of anger, fear, frustration, bitterness, resentment, those are states. Those are emotional states. That would be like putting that crap gas in your supercar. Everyone, all of us are supercars. We're super vehicles. We're sleeper cars, some of us. We may not look like we're, as powerful as we truly are. But when we act out of anger or fear, frustration, it's like doing the same thing. It's putting crap gas into who we are. It fuels our decision. It fuels our behavior. It fuels everything that we do. So state management is recognizing that we have the ability to choose what kind of emotional fuel we are going to be driving our life through.
I love that, dude. That's a classic metaphor selling right there. So thank you so much, brother. I love it. So that was brilliantly explained. So some people may be thinking, okay, Doug, I understand the concept, but I heard that I should feel what I feel. Isn't state management quote unquote fake? Am I trying to fake my emotions? Some people may be thinking that. What's your response for that?
I understand people may think that, and I'm not suggesting that you don't feel what you're feeling. I'm saying question what you're feeling, why you're feeling it that way, and what, if you wanted to feel, would you? Right? Meaning, like, let's say something bad happens. I'm not saying pretend to, be delusional and say it didn't happen. What I'm saying is that if you want to change the course of your current experience, you have to take personal responsibility and then choose what energy is going to support you on it. So it's not about faking it. It's about being authentic as to what you want to experience. Now,
I love that.
Some people want to experience anger. They may not, they'll say they don't, but they keep doing it, which tells me that they probably are getting something out of it. So it's really understanding that we're dynamic, that it's okay. And sometimes we do need to feel through things. The question becomes, how long do we want to feel it? Right? It's okay to get sad. It's okay to have every feeling. The question is, do you want to live there?
I love that. By the way, Lauren Seaman said, love this.
Yeah, love you, Lauren. Yep.
You rock. Yes, Lauren. My brother Doug, he rocks for sure. He's a rocker, man. He's a rocker. I love it. So in your journey of personal development, how do you apply personal development? Because we're always we're just talking about before we went live, we exchange information about the technology, the gear. The other day I emailed Douglas, hey man, I like your lives. What are you using, right? You're always looking for the edge. What do you, as a coach, right, as a leader, what's some things that you personally do to keep evolving, to keep stretching?
I read with my ears and with my eyes. So I have my Audible is chock full of books, and we have our library is 15 feet wide and 10 feet tall. We have thousands of books. I do my best to. One of the things that was a huge game changer for me, and I did this as my career in the music industry was because of this philosophy. And then obviously you'll see how it translated, is I always surround myself with people who their normal is what I aspire to.
Can you go back 10 seconds?
I do my best to hang out with people who their normal is what I aspire to. Gotta.
So
like using the, like a sports analogy, and this is one I think I got from Tony, was like playing tennis. Are you going to learn more playing against, whoever the top pro is right now, or a 5-year-old? How are you going to grow, right? And if I'm hanging out with people who I'm dominating the game, I'm not growing. I'm not learning. I found that, like in life, that when we hang around with people who have a higher standard, we naturally grow into that standard, in order to hang in there. And what I also found is that people who operate on whatever level, like, what's the old term? Misery loves company. But so does success. So do happy. So does love, right? So the people who are playing at that level, they want company too. They just want people who are going to keep them and hang basically at that level, so that their axes don't get dull. And a perfect example is the ability to be on the team with you and Scotty and Jack and like all, incredible speakers. Holy crap. And Jeff, I mean, I had to step up my game. And if you recall, and I'll give you a great example here. So here's personal driving the professional and how powerful it is. You remember my first, we met on the phone, and we connected, and I went through the whole process, the interview process to get there. And then how bad was my first, training for the team?
Yeah, it was. Could it be a little bit better? It
sucked. I was fired that day. Matt Millen took me aside and was like, "What the F?" And he's like, I don't know what to tell you. You got no meetings. You got 2 weeks to straighten up and fly right. And that day, I was crushed, but I realized I had a model now. I saw what was happening. I saw what you guys were doing. I'm like, oh, now I get it. I understand what I understand what I didn't do. I understand what I need to do to succeed. But more importantly, I was like, I know what I need to do right now. And I had a choice. I could have, because we all went out to dinner that night. Right. The only person who wasn't there from the company was Tony. Right. Scotty was there, Matt, you, Jarek, everybody. And I was like, I could sit in the corner and pout. I could be like, I could hang with my comfort zone and hang with Christian, because he and I were the two guys that came over from New York. And I was like, no, I'm going to prove that I'm a product of the product. And I sat down with Matt, you, Jarek, Scotty, Steve.
I remember that
table to prove to you that I am not, that failure was not going to take me out. That I was going to prove to you that I can do this, and I'm going to hang with you, and I'm just going to insert myself in the most uncomfortable situation possible in that environment based on what had happened, so that I would have the certainty and the confidence to go home going like, okay, I got this. I'm going to do this. I not going to be beaten. And then I was able to turn it around and finish number one a couple times. But
I love that.
That's taking the personal into the professional.
I love that. And I remember, man, and I feel like when those things happens, we get challenged, but that in the same token is an opportunity for us to show up, because in life, either you own your results or your results own you. And when you spoke the beginning, the results own you, right? But you're like, no, I own the results, and you change it, and obviously became super successful. I'm always interested in tapping to people's minds, and obviously it's not like people don't have ups and downs, but you're a guy who pretty much spend most of the time in energy, vibration, super high. When you wake up in the morning, most of the days, what is the inner dialogue, Doug's voice? What is the little voice telling you? when you wake up in the morning and be like, what is the voice? I'd love to know that.
So I'm able to roll over and see my beautiful wife, and I go, thank you. I think to myself, man, how grateful am I? How amazing is my, my experience in life? How blessed I am. And then I get present, and I just kind of ask for guidance from God, from the universe. I'm like, okay, God, like, how am I leading today? And I have my schedule and and I've got all that. And I'm aware of that, but really what I'm looking for is guidance, like how allow my inner light flow out. Like, how am I to serve today? What is the best presence that I can have in any situation? So, like, for example,
Can you give me an example?
Well, yeah, like so today.
It's interesting because that is interesting for me. No, because it's almost like we're asking for guidance, because I am actually really curious to know how do you actually the example of waking up, acknowledge gratitude, acknowledge your beautiful wife, and then you'd be like, ask for guidance. So I'd love to know to unpack that and give an example.
It's sort of nebulous in that I'm just asking for God, Mother Nature, whatever your language is, to allow me to serve through, to be connected to my spiritual highest calling, to be the best presence I can be for whatever I'm doing. So I get up, and one of the things I do now every morning at 7 a.m., I do a story.
Yeah.
I just do a live at 7 in the morning.
Yep.
I tell a story, and it's,
if people want to follow your stories, what is the best place for them to go? Actually,
my Facebook page, just Doug McGuirk. Just go in there. You probably have to follow me. Sorry, I'm kind of. I should probably just create another fan page.
You're kind of big deal.
Nah, hardly. But you can still follow, right? And message me too, just so we can connect. So I do that, and then so I'm just like, okay, like, God, what story, what needs to flow right now? What does the universe need? What do you need? What is going to add value to anybody, whether it be one person or a million people? It's not. It's more. It's about quality over quantity. And then I take my daughter to school. So like, Ellie, so we're sitting in the car, and it's just being present with her and talking. And she's like, Daddy, tell me stories about when you were a little boy. And like, so I'm like, okay, like, what would be some cool stories? And I'm really genuinely thinking almost all the time, like, what value can I add in any situation that I'm in?
I love that. So for those, by the way, a lot of people here love that, Doug. Hang out with people who they are normal is what we want to accomplish. Love that. Thanks, Jerry. Opportunity for growth. Urk, Urk is watching. I'm not going to repeat this. I'm just going to show here, Urk. Appreciate you, brother. Love you, man. That's funny. I love that. I love it. You know what? I love what you drop some knowledge here. How can I add value to the situation that I'm in? So I love that question, by the way. If all people do is ask this question in any circumstances, how can I add value to the situation I'm in? That would consistently you do that over and over and over, your life would be different. Your experience of life would be different.
Oh my gosh. I mean, just right now, the climate of the world, if people were thinking that way, we'd be through this whole, every crisis that we've ever been through. We'd be over it and moving forward if that was the energy that everyone took when a challenge comes our way. Because you can't do anything about it. Things happen, right? I mean, stuff happens in life. And then how we respond, are we coming into it and going, oh man, how can I add value to this situation? Rather than how can I control it, or why? Gosh, darn it. Like, all of that is not going to help. But a better question is, how can I add even more value? And now notice there's a little bit, even more people are already adding value. And I mean, these are genuine questions that are transformative, because if I'm if I'm willing to ask that question and more importantly, answer it, then things change.
For sure. I love that. So one of the things that I noticed, my experience since March 13th, originally was the last talk. And then I had, man, I don't know, 10, 15 gigs canceled, moved. And I would say maybe for 30 days between April and May, I found myself in a place which is not my core. My core energy is love. I felt myself angry.
Yeah.
No, but for real, it was like weird. It's almost like I'm going through my day and then I was a different person. Everything I was doing is like there's a little blueprint of anger, kind of paint anger. And I'm like, man, I don't like that. It's like, so as a coach who leads people to perform better, to change addiction, to become better, what would be some ideas to finish up the year strong, to break that cycle right now? Because it's still 2020 for most people, have not been a great experience for most people. So what would you recommend? You know, because some people say, hey, please, January 1st arrive. So, so what would be some ideas, some mindset, some beliefs to finish up the year strong and just kind of reset, you know?
Great question. And one of the things that helped me a little bit during this as well is like, you know, how do I want to be remembered? Like, what is my legacy going to be? And it helps to have a daughter and kind of go and you know, you have your children as well, where you go, they're watching.
Ooh.
They are watching and they are picking it up. And
dude, I just got goosebumps. That's it.
And we're teaching them. And I like, and to this point, like I'll share a quick story on how deep that goes. So when our daughter was an infant, we would give her little coconut oil massages after her bath. So she's a couple months old, right? She's just starting to learn how to speak and all of that. And so she's lying down on her back on like, right. We put her on her, you know, the little bendy thing, you know, that has that they don't fall out of. And so I get the coconut oil, and I would always, like, when I was starting just kidding around, having fun, and be like, oh yeah, here we go. Her first word, she was lying down on her back, and she goes, oh yeah. And some of the other things, like I whistle, like whenever Heidi, you know, comes in, you know, wakes up in the morning, whatever, I do a whistle, a cat call, like like that. One of the first things that Ellie picked up was whistling, and she didn't realize whistling at her mom may not be as appropriate, but like these are the little things, and it's like that reminder, like, holy crap, like that's cute. But man, if she's picking up my anger at stupid stuff or my fear about something or whatever, I'm like, what am I teaching her? And then I think of, again, when I'm looking for guidance, it's like, you know, God, how do I want to be remembered? Am I serving you? Am I serving a higher purpose? Am I, again, adding value here? Or am I, you know, how am I leading? How are people going to remember me? And I remember, and this was a profound moment. My first UPW that kind of set me on another course was during Dickens. I just had this, you know, this deep connection. And I'm like, man, if I'm made in, and if we all are made in God's image, how dare I play small?
Mm-hmm.
And then I go, man, then what is, you know, then, and I come from love, and I get frustrated, and I get, you know, I have moments, and just like, you know, and this was a considerably challenging time for everybody. I would get pissed off too in moments, and I'll tell you, I'll just right off the rip tell you, you want to not be pissed off? Don't watch the news. Don't, you know, like, don't get to, you know, social media. And here's what, and it's so true, because check this out. You and I, between the decades of experience, the value we add, where the heart that we come from, the knowledge bombs that come from both of us consistently, amazing, right? More people will get engaged in some stupid FU conversation then dig into our conversation. Like they're not going to share that, but they'll share like, oh, F this guy, F that guy,
That's so true. That is incredible. That's the best thing. It's crazy. That's so true.
But that's the addiction, right? Because now, we can now go down a whole, I love Tony's 6 needs model. We could go through that. Someone actually thinks they're contributing and adding value by pointing out someone else's foibles. And, on either side, right? And like I said, we don't even have to get into politics to observe it. Now, do they do it differently? Absolutely. We could go down a whole other rabbit hole another time. But the point is that if you engage in that, you're not helping. You're not helping yourself and you're not helping anybody else, even though, and this is where the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I don't believe, I try to do my best to not think that there are people who genuinely want people to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we create suffered experiences through living in anger, frustration, hate, all of that. And it's just crazy. Like, it's so funny. Like, I don't use the word hate when I never say I hate this or I hate that. And Heidi does a little bit more than I do. Well, I don't really much at all, but we've trained Ellie, she'll now go, oh, I know hate's a strong word. And it's like, I really don't like that. Cause like, there's, when you get into hate, disgust, things of that nature, it's hard to get out of that. Especially when you have other people agreeing with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I think one of the lessons that I'm still by no means I have mastered that I'm working currently on myself is truly and genuinely have empathy with someone who thinks different than I am.
Yeah.
Man, it's hard. And I'm like, literally I'm like, come on, bro. And like, I have like level of awareness, right, man? I'm going to be empathetic towards the people who have different beliefs. Not easy. It's getting easier.
It is, and one of the things that I found, and again, I'm by no means a master either. I can only share my experiences. Is and I use the example as just a quick reminder. Is it's purpose over process for me. That
I like the power line.
Yeah, purpose over process, and one way to look at that now, and I'll use with full disclosure, I grew up around guns. Like I grew up around it. Like hunting was a big part of my family's life growing up. I grew up in New York. We'd go up to Connecticut. My uncle was a big hunter. He was in the Vietnam War, all this stuff. So I've been around guns my entire life. In New York, I was a concealed carry holder. Like I own guns. I'm in Florida. I'm a gun owner. I wanted to be transparent about it. Of course. I don't believe that the NRA or legal gun owners are thinking to themselves, it would be great if we could be sure that people could kill each other with guns. Like, they're not thinking that. Their honest belief is by owning guns and having the ability to protect oneself is a process to safety. I also don't believe, for the most part, that people who are anti-gun are thinking to themselves, it would be great if we could unarm everybody so they could all get killed. Like, they're not thinking that either. They're thinking the same thing. They want to be safe. Mm-hmm. Their process is different. They believe, so they have these two.
Yep.
So then you go, okay, if we can find a way to go, I get where you're coming from. I don't want people to die either. And get agreement. That's where we can start moving forward and start the conversation with agreement, not start the conversation with the process of how.
I love that, brother. That's like a knowledge bomb right here. Boom. I love that. Thank you, brother.
Oh, you're welcome. And that's a great way to look at it. The challenges, and this is where you and I would start to get angry again, is because it's getting harder and harder to find some purpose to agree on. And that's where the frustration is. So then we got to go to the person and go, okay, this person is disagreeing and they're conflating process and purpose a little bit. And we just have to appreciate that they're still loving, great people who have a different model of the world, and that's okay. And just love them for they are. Because I have some friends who are very much on the other side that I am in politics in their views. And what's interesting is I had a conversation with one friend of mine, and he was like, I can't have a conversation with someone who doesn't agree with me, but I can with you because I know your heart. And I know that what you're coming from is that I know who you are, and that we can disagree on some things, but I know that we both want the same, which is love, happiness, success, all of those things. So, and this is going to sound, and I don't mean this to sound negative to anybody. When it gets to that degree, not with other friends, but when it's so far off, I also then have to think about like just the model of like my daughter. Her model is her model, and to get mad at her because her model is so much in her model and hasn't grown to appreciate other experiences. Unfortunately, right now, people are kind of, I feel like when we're under pressure, we go back to old patterns.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And these patterns started when we were young. So there's a little bit of an element of the disagreements are starting to sound like, elementary school or junior high school arguments. And then I have to step back and go, okay, just right now, it's not the time to have a conversation, because then I go into the addiction mode and I go, this person is addicted to their perspective right now. And they're addicted to the energy they're getting from it. They think that they're contributing. They think that they're making a difference. They think that what they're doing in their position does have a positive intent. And then I had to step back and at least let go of the anger and frustration.
Buddy, this conversation is so powerful because so I live in California. My wife is from San Diego. I live in California for 16 years. And the last 2 years, you literally moved the whole family, and you went from California, a blue Democrat state, to South Carolina. And it has been, in the beginning, it's crazy when you go through belief change. I personally, it's
painful.
Really weird because for 49 years, I was thinking one way. Again, 100% transparent. And then I go, everything that I want, my purpose, and the things that I want to do, I don't identify myself with this side. I identify myself with this side. And the beginning was actually really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
First was uncomfortable internally, because as you're going through this belief change, the people don't understand that, because our belief system feels real, feels immutable, feels like solid, but we know it's not.
Yeah.
And then when you let it go, like, oh man, it feels. And then once you like you settle, like, oh yeah, that I do have different beliefs now. I do change. I'm a 50-year-old man with 2 kids. I changed different than when I was 35 and single.
Yeah.
And then when you start communicating those new that new expansion, the new values, man, some people
don't like hearing that.
They don't like to hear that at all.
Well,
at all. And I'm like, so now my wife like, well, maybe you shouldn't be talking about it. I'm like, no, it's not like I don't want to hide, but like, the good news, that going back to, I think, the purpose of a process, which I love that line, by the way, because I came from one camp, I kind of understand the purpose behind it. You know what I mean? Maybe I believe in this process to get to the purpose better. That's it. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I totally get it. And here's another thing that I think is, when you talk about beliefs, that I think is really potentially could be transformative to some. When we were, and I'll start with the addiction model. People, we don't we weren't saying people should or shouldn't go to AA. So we weren't like, you got to go to meetings, not go to meetings. Like that wasn't a thing. But here's what I did say. I would ask this. I'd say, what do addicts do? Like, because one of the things in AA, they would say, I would say, I'm an addict, right? So what do addicts do? Just like if you were to think of an addict, what do?
They confess that they admit they're addicts. Or...
No. Just like when you think of an addict, what do you think of when someone
they do self-destructive behavior,
drink, lie, cheat? Like these are some things that I'd ask people. Say, what do addicts do? And they say, lie, cheat, steal. Okay. So then I'd say, okay, so let me ask you something. We're meeting for the first time, and I say to you, hi, I'm Doug. I lie, cheat, steal, manipulate, do self-destructive behavior. You want to hang out? And they're like, well, no. I said, so just notice what you're doing. When you refer to yourself as an addict, you are now putting in that identity all of these behaviors. Mm-hmm. Now, when we take that out and say, so what I would say with the person, I'd say, how about I'm a grateful recovering addict? At least the presupposition is you're grateful and in recovery if you need to use the word even addict. But then now I take this to using the politics kind of angle. So many people, and this is what you just shared, they say, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, which now has all of those things wrapped into it of what that may or may not mean to someone. So then when people connect, oh, you're a Democrat too, you're a Republican too, and then you change who you are, now then they question themselves. They're like, this is uncomfortable. No, that's wrong. And then they feel lost. And so it's like this whole conflated kind of experience around an identity that is on process rather than purpose. And so I call myself a common sensitive.
I love that.
Like I'm a registered independent, but if I have to identify, I'm a common sensitive. Well, I don't care. Like just, does this make sense? And if it makes sense, then cool. If it doesn't, then let's have a conversation as to what's going to make the most sense. What is what is going to get us to our outcome, and be flexible in that.
I love that, dude. I love it. Let's talk a little about your book. Put your book there, brother. So tell me about what's the biggest takeaway under construction? What is the biggest takeaway of the book?
That we are all potentially addicted to something, whether it be drugs or alcohol. And this is a case study of taking personal development into working with people who have some of the strongest addictions to heroin, opioids, cocaine, crack, meth, alcohol. We had sex addicts, we had gambling addiction, we had, other process addictions, food addictions, that when you understand what you get out of the experience, then you can pick a new process. You have the purpose. Mm-hmm. So drugs and alcohol, just state management tool, a strategy to change your state. Okay. So, if I were to look at myself and go, and this is, go, okay, right now I'm using, and I use Tony's 6 needs model as a large portion of it. So if I'm feeling stressed out, and in the past, I look at I'm stressed out. Why am I using drugs right now? Well, because I want to feel certain that I'm going to get out of this pain I'm feeling. Or I want to change this. I need to check out. I'm so stressed out. I need uncertainty. I need to change. Or I'm not feeling very important right now, so I'm doing this for me. So I need that significance. Or it's like, oh man, I just need to connect. And believe it or not, as you know, some religions are revolved around consumption of some substances. So it does create a sense of connection. Or if we're noticing, it's interesting. Some people they're going out and they want other people to drink with them. Right. And then so if you drink with them, like I remember when I first stopped drinking, 20 years ago, at first there was a little bit of me like, I don't know how to be not drinking with you because I'm not connecting. So it took me a minute to go, but I still want to connect. I don't need alcohol to connect with somebody. I just hang out. Like it's not, they're not connected. And the challenge is that oftentimes people think like we have this synesthesia that occurs that, there's an old saying, why can't you give up one thing so that you could have everything? And then the person who hears that goes, because everything includes that one thing. I don't go to ball games. I don't go out to dinner. I don't do anything without taking my drug of choice, whether it be alcohol or whatever it is. So once you understand what you're getting out of it, again, purpose over process, now we can change the process through which we get it. So I go, I could do some yoga. I could do some meditating. I could do some exercise. I can do some reading. I can, connect. Like, so I'll give you a great example. We could end that. So when I first started working, Heidi and I, when we first started working at the treatment center, I was working a lot. My hours were really long. So I'd come home late. And I think we had 2 dogs at the time, maybe at least one, and they were indoor dogs, right? Little dogs. So they had a pee-pee pad and all of that. So Heidi would come home at 5 or whatever, and she'd come home. She'd have to clean up the dog poop and clean up all that stuff. And I'd be a couple hours later. So I'd be coming home, rolling in at 7 or whatever. And during that time, she'd be starting to get a little irritated, a little pissed off, right? So then when she'd come home, what would happen? How is she feeling? She's feeling stressed out, a little angry, and she might start nudging me a little and be like, you can just tell that little bit of anger. So, wait a minute. What she needs right now, she needs to be certain that she is the number one most important person in my world. She needs to also get out of that mind, like I got to interrupt that a little bit, getting pissed off and all that. She also needs to know that she's loved. So instead of when she would come in, instead of like if she said something or whatever, instead of going, well, getting back into it. So that's it. Come in and I give you a 30-second hug. No words, just presence, tons of certainty, tons of connection, tons of significance, tons of like kind of interrupting that pattern. Like, well, that's weird. You're just going to give me a big hug and say nothing and just allow that to go.
I love that, bro. Just love that.
And she wasn't so mad anymore. because she was mad because her needs weren't being met. The purpose was she needed to be loved, needed to know she was important, needed to know that she's appreciated, and that I acknowledged all of that.
I love that. My brother, where can I get your book? Amazon?
Yeah, it's on Amazon, in bookstores. It's the publisher of Chicken Soup.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
The original publisher of Chicken Soup. So now it's distributed through Simon & Schuster, but you can get it on Amazon. You can get it at any bookstore. I believe they're in there. And it's an easy read. It's really a case study on applying personal development to changing any part of your life. Because I just figure that if it works with people struggling with drugs and alcohol, it can work with someone who can't stop getting pissed off on Facebook.
I love it. I love it. So for people, man, that you provide so much to us, brother. So grateful. If people want to reach out to you, learn more about your coaching, your speaking, your trainings, what is the best way to connect with you?
2 things. Just find me here, Dug McGuirk, on Facebook and on LinkedIn. My website is revolutionarygrowth.com. And you were on my podcast, The Real Deal. If you go to therealdealon.com, you can see all the different. It's on every platform. So as soon as you go to that, you get whatever choice, whatever you listen to, you could subscribe there, and on YouTube as well.
Brother, thanks so much, man. You provide so much value. I took so much notes today. I appreciate that. Much love to you. Love to your family, brother,
and yours.
Thanks so much for sharing the stories, the knowledges, the new mindset. So, Dug, my brother, much love, bro. And have a good weekend. Everybody, thanks so much, everybody. Urk says hi. Lauren say channel for love and service. Yep. Urk, well, that's true about me.
That is true. Urk is awesome.
Awesome.
Love you, brother.
I appreciate that. Hello. Bye, everybody.
You rock.